On my first morning in a town I had never once driven to, in a school I had never set foot in, 19 children looked up from their desks and told me welcome back, and every single one of them meant it. I have spent the weeks since trying to find the moment I could have walked out and did not. I want to lay it down in order, while I still know which order things happened in, because that is the part I can feel slipping. I have been a substitute teacher for 9 years, in something like 40 schools across 3 states. And the entire point of the work, the reason I chose it over anything steadier, is that a substitute is a person no one is supposed to remember. You come in for a day. You read the names off the folder the regular teacher left. You keep the room from burning down, and you leave before anyone learns to count on you. I was good at it, the way you are good at anything you used to hide. What happened at Yearbooks only makes sense if you understand that I had spent my whole adult life making sure no place on earth could say my name. And then I drove out to one that already had it carved into the door. The name on my license is Eli Prosser. I mention it now because it stops being simple very quickly, and I want it on the record while it is still just a fact. The call came from the agency on a Sunday night in October. They had a school out on the high plains, 3 hours from the city, a small consolidated school, kindergarten through 8th grade, in a town called Yearbooks that I had never heard of and could not find much about. The regular teacher for the 4th and 5th grade room, a woman named Miss Calloway, had gone on leave, and they needed someone to cover, 1 day to start, maybe more. The dispatcher, a woman named Robin I had talked to 100 times, sounded relieved when I said yes. "You're my only one who'll go that far out," she said. I told her I did not mind the drive. That was true. The drive was the part of the job I liked best, the long, empty part where no one anywhere knew exactly where I was. There had been people once who wanted to know where I was. A woman I was going to marry. A classroom of my own that a principal offered me, keys and a nameplate and all, and that I turned down in the parking lot before I could picture a child getting used to my face. I had taught all of them the same lesson in the end, which is that if you never let anyone start counting on you, you never have to stand there and watch what your leaving does to them. I was 39 years old, and I had gotten the number of people who would notice if I vanished down to 0, and I had told myself for years that the number was peace. Yearbooks was smaller than its own name. A grain elevator, a gas station, 2 churches, and a low brick school built in the 1950s with a flagpole out front and a marquee that said, "Welcome back" in white plastic letters. I remember thinking the marquee was for the students, that it had been up since August and no one had bothered to change it. I parked in the visitor spot. I want that on the record too. I parked in the spot marked visitor because that is what I was. The town was quiet in a way that is different from empty. Empty is when no one is there. Quiet, like Yearbooks is, when everyone is there, and they are all, without saying it, waiting for the same thing to come back. The front office smelled like every school office in the country, floor wax and old coffee and the inside of a laminator. The secretary looked up when the door chimed, and her whole face opened. "There he is," she said. "Welcome back, Mr. Ferris. I told her there was a mix-up. I told her my name was Prosser, that I was the sub the agency had sent for Miss Calloway's room, and I held out the printout with my name on it, the way you hold out a thing that will settle an argument." She barely looked at it. She was already coming around the counter with a lanyard in her hand, a laminated badge on the end of it, and on the badge was a photograph of my face and the name Mr. Ferris, and under that, in smaller letters, the word staff and a start date 9 years back. I have looked at a great many photographs of myself since that morning, trying to find the seam. There is a scar through my left eyebrow where a dog bit me when I was 6. It was in the photograph. The small chip in my front tooth I have never had fixed was in the photograph. It was my face, at an age I had not yet been 9 years ago, wearing a shirt I did not own, smiling in a way I do not smile. "Must have printed a new one for the year," she said, and pressed the lanyard into my hand. And it was warm, the way plastic is warm when it has been sitting under a lamp, or when it has been worn. I could tell you I ran. A sane man runs. What I did instead was follow her down the hall, because she was already walking and talking, and because a part of me that I did not like was curious, and because I have spent my whole life following the folder wherever it led. She walked me to room 4. My name, the Ferris name, was on a laminated card slotted into the bracket beside the door, in the same font as every other door, not new, the corners soft with handling. Inside, the room was set up the way I set up a room. I do not mean similar. I mean the tape dispenser was on the left of the desk, because I am left-handed and I move it there the first thing in any room I am given, and it was on the left. The window blinds were turned up instead of down, which is a small thing I do because down blinds make a room feel like a held breath, and they were up. There was a chipped mug on the desk that said "World's Okayest Teacher," which is a joke I would never buy for myself and would absolutely be given by someone who knew me, and it had cold coffee in it, 2 days old by the smell, as if I had set it down Friday afternoon and walked out meaning to come back Monday. The children came in at the bell. There were 19 of them. They said good morning the way children do, ragged and overlapping, and a fair number of them said it to me by name. "Morning, Mr. Ferris." A girl in the front row told me she had practiced the piece I gave her. A boy near the window asked if we were going to finish the thing about the river. I did not know what the thing about the river was. I said we would see, which is what you say. And he grinned, like I had confirmed something, and I felt the specific vertigo of standing in a room where everyone has read a book about you that you have not read yourself. And there was one boy in the back corner, by the pencil sharpener, who did not say good morning, to me or to anyone. He only watched me the whole morning with the flat, careful attention of a child making sure that a thing he has been promised is not about to be taken away from him again. I did not know yet that he would be the reason I am still here. Here is the part I have gone over the most, so I will be careful with it. I knew where things were. When a child asked for the good scissors, my hand went to the second drawer without my deciding it should, and the good scissors were there, the ones with the green handles, separate from the classroom pairs. When the fire drill sounded at 10:15, unannounced, a real drill, I did not read the evacuation card taped by the door the way a sub reads it, scanning, hoping. I turned left out of the room and took them out the north door across the gravel to the second painted line on the lot, and only when we were standing there in the cold, all 19 accounted for, did I understand that no one had told me the north door or the second line, that I had simply known it the way you know the stairs in your own house in the dark. The boy in the corner did one thing during that drill that I keep coming back to. Out on the gravel, the wind took a worksheet off my clipboard, and when I bent to catch it and straightened up, he had moved, without seeming to move, so that he was standing in the lee of me, out of the wind, the way a child stands close to an adult he has quietly decided is a wall between him and the weather. He did not look up. He did not say a word. He just stood in the shape of my shadow like he had stood there 100 times, and something under my ribs answered before my head could, a muscle memory of being leaned on. Then the whistle blew and we filed back in, and he went to his corner, and I told myself I had imagined the whole small thing. I did not eat lunch. I went to the library, because every school in America keeps its yearbooks in the library. On a low shelf near the flags, And Halbrook was no different. I found the shelf. I took down the volume from 9 years back, the year on my badge, and I turned to the staff pages, and there I was. Mr. Ferris, grade 4 and 5. My face younger, the scar, the tooth. I turned to the year before that, which was before the start date on my badge, before I supposedly existed here, and I was there too, in the back of a group photo, half turned, but me. I went back another year. Me. I went back until the paper got brittle and the photos went to gray, and in the oldest one on the shelf, a class picture from a year I would have been a small child 400 miles away. There is a man standing at the end of the row of students, an adult, out of focus, and I have shown that photograph to no one because there is nothing to point at. It is just a blur that I know, the way you know your own shape in a bad reflection. I called the agency from the parking lot on my lunch, and this is where the ground really went out from under me, so I will give it to you exactly. Robin answered. I said, Robin, it's Eli Prosser. I'm at Halbrook. There was a pause, not a long one, the pause of someone checking a screen. Then she said, I'm sorry. I've got a Halbrook, but it's showing covered. Staff teacher, no sub-requested. Who did you say this was? I said my name again. She said, I don't think I have you in the system, hon. Are you sure you're with our agency? And her voice was kind and a little confused, the voice you use with someone who has the wrong number. And I had spoken to this woman every week for 9 years, and she did not know me. I want to be honest about my own mind here because I considered it. I considered that I had come loose, that grief or drink or plain time had unstitched me, and I had wandered into a life and only thought I remembered another one. I am a practical man in the way that people who have kept themselves very alone are practical, so I did practical things. I took out my phone and scrolled my contacts, and they were mostly still there, but thinning, the way a name goes when you try to remember a dream at noon, and Robin's number rang through to a dentist's office in a town I had never lived in. I looked at my license again. Eli Prosser. The photo on it, when I really looked, had the same shirt as the badge in my hand. I do not know when that shirt got into my life. I have never owned a blue shirt with a small anchor on the pocket. I was wearing it. I looked down in the parking lot at Halbrook, and I was wearing it. The afternoon is when I noticed the boy. His name was Corey Pruitt. He sat in the back corner, the seat by the pencil sharpener, which is the seat a certain kind of child chooses because it gives a reason to get up. He had not said good morning to me by name or otherwise. He had not said anything all day. At the end of the afternoon, when the others were packing up loud, he came to the desk and stood there until I looked at him, and then he put a folded piece of paper on the blotter and left without a word. It was a drawing. It was the room, done in the flat, careful way of a child who presses hard, and in the drawing there was a small figure that was him in the corner seat, and a larger figure at the front that was me, with the scar drawn in over the eyebrow, a deliberate mark, and above the larger figure he had written in the shaky capitals of a 9-year-old. The word stayed. I found his folder in Miss Calloway's files, because a substitute reads folders. It is the one honest reflex I have left. The notes in it were not Calloway's. They were in my handwriting, the Ferris handwriting, which is my handwriting, the same left-leaning scrawl, the same way I crossed a 7. The most recent note said, Corey does not speak to other staff, will speak to me. Do not reassign. He needs one adult in the building who does not leave, and below that, dated the previous spring, in the same hand, promised him I would be here. I sat in that room after the buses left, and I made myself say the sensible version out loud, the way I always can, The drive home version. The sensible version is that a town this small and this tired had lost its teacher, that Calloway was gone in whatever way people go, and that they had needed a Mr. Ferris so badly, all of them, the secretary and the 19 children and the boy in the corner, that they had simply agreed I was him, the way a room of people can agree not to mention the thing in the middle of it, and that the badge and the yearbooks were a mistake I was too rattled to explain, and that the honest thing, the only sane thing, was to get in my car and drive the 3 hours back and let the agency that did not have me in its system sort out a town that was not my problem. And the other version, the one I could not talk my way out of, sat with me in the cold room and did not argue. It only pointed quietly at the tape dispenser on the left, and the north door I had known, and the mug with my joke in it, and the boy who had drawn the scar he could not have seen from the back row unless he had looked at my face 1,000 times, and the note in my own hand, promising to be the one who does not leave. It pointed at all of it, and it said the thing I have not been able to unhear since. It said, "What if the mistake is not that they think you are Ferris? What if the mistake is that you think you were ever anyone else?" So I left. I want that on the record, because it is the closest I ever came. I got in the car while the lot was still emptying, and I drove, and Halbrook fell away behind me, the grain elevator, the 2 churches, the marquee shrinking in the mirror, and for 11 miles I was Eli Prosser again. Nobody, unremembered, free. And then I thought about the note in the folder in my own hand. "Do not reassign. He needs one adult in this building who does not leave." And I thought about the boy standing in the lee of me in the wind. And I understood exactly what would happen if I kept driving. The certainty that had waited 9 years for me would not break. It would simply move on to whoever they sent next, and Corey would learn one more time at 9 years old that the adult who stays is a thing that happens to other children. I pulled onto the shoulder and sat there with the engine running and the empty highway going dark in both directions for a long time. Then I turned the car around. No ghost did that. That part was mine, and it is the part that frightens me most. I stopped at the gas station on the way back in because I wanted to stand somewhere that was not the school and be Eli Prosser for one more minute. The man behind the counter nodded at me the way you nod at a regular. "Evening, Mr. Ferris," he said. "Cold one. Tell the Pruitt boy his mother came by. She's working the late shift again," she said. "You'd know what that means." I paid for gas I did not remember pumping into a car whose registration, when I checked it in the glove box under the dome light with my hands not quite steady, had been issued to me at an address in Halbrook, on a street I could now, if I let myself, picture. A green house. A dog I do not have, or did not have, a brown dog that would be waiting. I did not go to the greenhouse. I want that on the record. I slept in the car in the school lot, badly. And in the gray part of the morning I woke with the certainty that I had graded papers in my sleep, and there were papers on the passenger seat, 19 of them, marked in red in my hand, and Corey Pruitt's was on top, and I had written on it, without waking, the thing I write on the papers of children who are trying and afraid. The thing someone must have written on mine a long time ago before I decided to become a person no one remembers. I had written, "Good, stay with it. I am not going anywhere." The second morning the marquee still said, "Welcome back," and I understood finally that it was not left over from August. It was for me. It is always for me. It has been welcoming me back for 9 years, or for longer. For as long as there has been a blur at the end of the oldest class photo, and the town changes nothing on it because the town is not confused. The town has never been confused. I am the only one who arrives each time believing he is a visitor. I have been at Yearbooks now for a while. I have stopped being able to say exactly how long, which frightens the part of me that is still Eli Prosser, and that part is quieter every day, out on the drive home that I keep not taking. I could still take it. I know which way the road goes. But there is a boy in the corner seat who does not speak to anyone else. His mother works the late shift. He drew a picture of me with the one word stayed. I have read the note in my own hand that says he needs one adult in this building who does not leave. And I have spent my whole life being the man who leaves. I am so tired of it, that more than the badge or the yearbooks or the warm plastic in my hand is the thing that is keeping me here. Not fear, the opposite of fear, the relief of being, for once, expected. So this morning I did an ordinary thing. I want to tell it plainly, because it is the most frightening thing I have done. I walked into room 4 before the bell, and I picked up the marker, and I wrote my name on the board the way a teacher writes it on the first day, big, so the little ones in the back can read it. I wrote Mr. Ferris, and I stood there and looked at it, and the letters were in my handwriting, the left lean, the crossed 7 that is not even in the name, and I could not remember, standing there, which name I had walked in with, or whether the shirt with the anchor had ever belonged to anyone else. And then the bell rang, and the door opened, and 19 children came in out of the cold and said good morning to me, and the boy in the corner looked up, and I called the roll. There is a folder in the front office for next week. I saw it when I signed in, though I do not remember signing in. It is a one-day placement, a visitor, some tired soul the agency is sending out from the city because he is the only one who will drive this far, the only one with no one left to answer to for where he is. His name is on the tab, typed neat in the little plastic window. The name on the tab is Eli Prosser. I read it 3 times. I stood there and waited for the floor to go out from under me the way it did that first morning, and it did not come. What came instead was quieter and worse. It was recognition. It was the marquee going warm in my chest, and a thought as gentle as anything that the poor man has a long drive ahead of him, that he will come in rattled and holding a printout and insisting on a name, and that it will be my job and my whole relief to meet him at the chime of the door. I know now what I am. I am not the one who got replaced. I am the one who waits and welcomes and stays, so that the next man who is still running can finally put the running down. He will not understand that first morning. None of us ever do. So I will say to him the only true thing this place has ever taught me, the thing that is a door closing and a homecoming in the very same breath. Welcome back.